Hey, I'm going to be talking to you about pricing strategies, and I know I've covered this off before many times in other videos and on our live chats, but I want to elaborate a little bit further because we've seen questions in forums and coming directly to me as well. I want to cover off, where do you start from? How do you then think about a pricing ladder? How do you scale up even more? And what about some of the extras? And they are all a little bit interconnected. The advice we give here is kind of relevant to freelancers and web design agencies and anyone out there who is just starting off and they're a little bit unsure about the prices to offer or where they want to get to. The first thing we're going to look at is your starting prices. Don't assume that you can have a blanket cost for every website in the world. I see a lot of adverts out there that go, hey, we can build your website for £50. We will build it for £100, £20 per month or whatever like that. I find it to be so false. And obviously they're probably using a template, but how can they say that this website that serves this purpose is going to achieve the same as this website for exactly the same cost? What do I mean by this? You could have a basic website. And when I say basic, I'm talking about a one-page website, header, footer, content in the middle. You might have some scrolling menus or stuff like that, but it's a one-page website. All right, there is no page 2 or page 3. The contact form, everything is on one page. That could be your basic website. I'm also going to give you some example costs. It's not what we charge, but it's just to get you to understand it. Let's just say $500. Now, what if you have a 5-page website? Well, the 5-page website isn't going to be 5 times 500. You might increase it to be $1,000. You know, you want to try and entice the client or the customer and go, hey, look, you're getting a lot more, but for a bit more money, but it's now a 5-page website. However, a 5-page website here might not be the same as a 5-page website here. The pages here are tiny. They're like 1 or 2 sections per page, right? It's not a lot of content. You got a header, you got an image and a bit of text, blah, blah, blah. Very simple. The 5 pages here are a lot more complicated. Every page is about 20 sections. Is that overkill? Yes, it probably is. But maybe the page needs that. There's lots of services. The contact form has loads of details and things on there. So if you start to say $1,000 for this and $1,000 for that, this might take you 2 or 3 days. Let's just say this might take you 2 weeks because you're back and forth with the client and nail things down. Hold on a second. The same amount of money for 3 days work versus 14 days work. It just doesn't add up, does it? So when it comes to starting prices, it's okay to have one. And you might say we start from $500 for a basic website. And when you speak to your client and you understand their specification a lot more, then you can price it up accordingly. Because just because someone says, hey, I want a WooCommerce or an e-commerce shop website, don't just go, yeah, we do that for $1,200. Hold up. How many categories? How many templates? Are you going to have separate shop pages for each category? How many products are there? 3 products? 1,000 products? Are you adding the products? Are you getting the images? Are you writing the content? What is going on here? So understand the spec. So basic website, $500, maybe a 5-page website might be $1,000 or more. WooCommerce might be $2,000 or more. Appointment website might be $2,000 or more. Directory might be more. Look at the spec of what you're doing. Don't just say to someone, yeah, we'll do it for $500 before you know what you're getting into. And look at the analogy I'll give you. Two people want houses built. The builder comes along. The builder goes, yeah, I can build that for $50,000. But that person, it's the same size room. It's just a 1-story, like, let's say it's a big room, okay? An apartment, studio apartment, whatever, on a ground floor, if such a thing, whatever. Penthouse on a floor. Sounds weird, but that's what they want. But client number 2 wants a much more complex layout. You can't charge the same amount of money, okay? Because it's a lot more effort and a lot more work. And that brings me on to point number 2, which is your pricing ladder, okay? So we've already discussed different types of websites and where you start from. You've got to have a starting point, okay? And I will come back to revisit that, okay? I'm not saying start at 500, by the way. I will come back to that. Your pricing ladder, think of a car. You go to a showroom or you're looking up a car, you like the look of the car, and you have a range of models. You have the basic. There's no aircon. right? There's no alloy wheels. There's no digital radio. There's no sat nav, right? There's no, there's no fancy gear or anything on there. A basic, okay? Then you might have the one which now has the alloys and the air conditioning. Okay, the price goes up. Then you have the next version up that now has the sat nav and other sunroof maybe. And then you have another version that's got the sports model. It's got all the kit. You know that when you drive that, people are going to just go, whoa, look at that car. But you want that one, you got to pay for it. And if you can only afford the basic, you go with the basic, right? Unless you're going to go get a deal from somewhere else. But when you start to work out your starting point and then what it costs to go up and up and up into different versions of a website or different features, that is your pricing ladder. And what you want to do is make that clear to a client. Sometimes clients might go, oh, that's too expensive. Can we barter a bit? Can we knock it down? Well, then you can say to them, yeah, okay, I can do a cheaper version. You know, maybe someone wants the sports version. They want all the bells and whistles, but they don't want to pay it. So I might go, okay, if you come down to this version, I can still do your website, but you won't get X, Y, Z. So you leave the decision for them to make, okay? And pricing ladders can be quite intricate. You could have a basic website, and your ladder now is a one-page website with SEO, one-page website with performance and SEO, maybe. You know, one-page website with some other analytics and some other gear and funky stuff added on. WooCommerce, you could have a basic cost for that. Then you might have WooCommerce with extra filters and plugins with SEO. Do you get the idea? Performance and all of that. So you don't have to just have one pricing ladder. You've got your team or your setup. You could have a pricing ladder for basic websites, 5-page websites, WooCommerce websites, directory websites, whatever you want. But if you get that down, it's easier for you to share to your clients. Hey, I want a WooCommerce website. Yeah, okay, cool. We have different options for you. Have a look and, about what you want. So if you feel like you got to kind of phrase it in a way where you don't want them to know that, look, we want you to take the cheapest. You really want them to appreciate that if you want the stuff that's going to help your rankings, your indexing and all of that, you really want to be going for this one, but you're letting them see what they could get if they don't want to go for that. Now that brings me on to scaling up. So I mentioned that you might have had your basic website cost is $500, okay? Ideally, you want to be earning $1,500 per website that you built, or let's just say $1,000. No, let's go with $1,500. Let's go with $1,500. Okay. No, let's go to 1,000. Sorry, let's go to $1,000. That's what you want to be earning. If you're starting off and you've got no reviews, no experience other than building websites, messing around and all of that, and you've got no actual websites that are live out there to share with anyone at the moment, and basically reviews, you haven't built up a reputation, you can't go out there and start saying, yeah, I'll charge 1,000. You might get away with it, some people do, but the majority won't, because you've got nothing to back up your price. Why should I pay you $1,000? Why should I trust you to do that or to get things done? So you might have to have a scaling model. So it might be, and here's what I recommend, and I'll tell you why, because this is the strategy we did. When we started off, we knew what we wanted to be earning per website, but we started off at 20% of what we wanted to achieve. Instead, you might start off with $200. And it might be a basic website. Maybe it's for a friend, family member, someone you know, something like that, okay? $200, you're going to laugh at and go, what? That means I've got to do 5 of them before I hit what I want to be earning. Stay with me on this. You start at 200. 200 is your starting point. You might have to increase it a bit if there's a WooCommerce store or whatever, but think about, you got your pricing ladders. Now look at your basic. You're brand new. You start at 20%. After you've built, say, 2 or 3 websites on $200, you go up to 40%, to $400. Once you've done 2 or 3 more, by this point you've done 6 websites now, you go up to 60%, which is now $600. Once you've done 2 or 3 more websites, and by this point now you should have done 9 or 10 websites or 8, you can, if you want, go up to 80%, Or you take a bit of a risk and you jump up to the 100% mark. 20%, 40%, 60%, and then you got to 100%. Now you're charging 1,000. And if you get a bit of kickback from some, the lowest you ever go down to is 80%. The lowest you go down to is 80%, okay? But then once you've done 2 or 3 websites at the 1,000 or the 80% marks, 800 or 1,000, right? Whichever way you flex it, you then draw a line, okay? You do not go below your price that you want to go to. Now, if you decide to negotiate a little bit and you go, well, okay, we can go cheaper, but we can't do X or we can't do Y, or however you decide to flex it, you can do that. But if you're starting off and you got no reviews and no reputation and no presence, you got to start small. Because once you've done 2 or 3 good websites or you get good feedback, you've now got reputation. And when you go up to 40%, and hopefully you will have done 5 or 6 websites at that price point, you've now got 5 or 6 example websites for your portfolio on your website, testimonials. Make sure you get good reviews. Go above and beyond if you have to, but make sure you get a good review. And if you now imagine that by the time you're charging $1,000, you've now got, say, 9 or 10 websites under your belt, you're going to know more now about what kind of websites you like, what kind of clients you like working with, rub you up the wrong way and you want to avoid. Maybe you've realized you don't want to touch WooCommerce websites anymore. You've done 2 of them, you had enough. Fine, steer clear of them. You now know your strategy. And then once you price up your pricing ladder as well. So your pricing ladder might have been 200 and then a bit more is 400 and a bit more is 600. Well, now if you're starting at 1,000, you scale up your prices, right? So that's 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. Does that make sense? So that is what you could do. And that brings me very nicely onto point number 4, which I've kind of touched on in all the previous one. That is about what are you offering? So when you look at the pricing ladder, basic website, okay, and then I might say to the client, depending on how I phrase it or show it to them, okay, that's your basic website, that's the cost for that. If you want SEO as well, rank math, keywords, Google Search Console, all of that, or, blah, 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 you're going to pay extra. So it might be another $500. Let's just say, okay, 500 is your basic plus another 500 or something like that. Or what you might do is offer like a discount. So if you get this done at the same time we build your website, it will be $400. So 500 by plus 400 is 900. If you get it done from us later on, then you pay 500. That's just the way it works. Maybe they also want to make sure their website performance and everything is brilliant as well for page speed scores and all of that. You might charge a bit extra for that. What if like you're going to do the rank math, but they also want you to do the Google Analytics and the Google Search Console connections and all of that? Fine, you might charge a bit extra for that. What if they've got a domain and they're going to get their hosting themselves, but they need you to do the connection, the DNS? Fine, you might charge a little bit extra for that as well. Maybe you need to set up their backups or something like that. There's a lot of things we do for free. And a lot of these things do not take just 5 minutes, especially if you're setting up emails, an MX records and the domain is here, the hosting is here, and the email is wherever, and you're now having to do stuff in the back end. It's not all difficult, but it's not all easy either. Especially if some of your clients are with certain host providers, and we all know how much of a pain in the ass that can be. So basic website, what are you actually offering in that basic website? Are you doing their hosting, their domain connection, obviously the WordPress installation and plugins and all of that? That would obviously be in it. But are you also offering in SEO? Are you also offering in like some Google Analytics connections as well, site kit, stuff like that? Are you also going to do their full-blown page speed performance, mobile optimization as well? Are you going through the whole rigmarole of their website? What are you offering? And if you break down, okay, what you will do and what the extras are, when you quote to a client, you can say to them, right, you want everything. You want to be found on Google. You want to be in the search engines. Here's the cost. Here's the cost for everything. At which point they'll either go with it or they'll go, whoa, that's too much. And that's when you go, okay, but there are options. If I break it down for you, okay, if you don't want us to do your rank math, your keywords, any of that, fine, the cost goes down. If you don't want us to get your images and compress and convert them into WebP, so you're going to have to do that. If you don't give us the images in WebP, we're not doing it. Okay, we'll tell you what to do, but then you have to do it. You know, and if they do it, the cost comes down. Are they going to get you the custom fonts and whatever? Fine, the cost comes down. So there are things you can flex. Obviously, there are stuff that it is much better that you do rather than them. But if the client wants to bring their costs down, start knocking back the services. Show them what they get, but show them what the cost is for that service. Make it transparent. Tell them the time. Look, to do this will take half a day, 1 hour, 30 minutes even. You know, what's the time difference? You know, someone sent me asked me to say, how long would it take to make a header, a footer, and then a full canvas page with the header footer? And I was like, well, it depends on what you want, but let's assume 30 minutes for the header, 30 minutes for the footer, and the full page, well, the full width page, which just shows your header and footer. Well, that's 0, right? That's like 0 minute, 1 minute. It's not even worth costing up. So be transparent about your time, your costings, and all of that. But if you can get into place in your head, where are you starting? Thinking about scaling up as well. You know, you're not going to earn 20,000 per website, okay? You got to start somewhere. How are you going to scale up to that? And also what your ladders are for your different types of websites. It will help you and your clients to understand what they're getting, what they're paying for, and what your expectations are in terms of what you get paid for your work and services. I hope that all makes sense. I'm Imran, Web Squadron. I hope you like, subscribe, share, and follow. I'll see you.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean.